Okay, hello. Just had a 3-day workshop here at Cockenzie House. My name is Aine and this is where my studio is. I really love it here. You can hear the birds singing. It's a beautiful place. We've just had our 3-day workshop, and this video you're going to see next is a little bit about my painting of Pete for the demonstration on day 2. Pete was our lovely model who came and sat for us on day 2, and he's got quite a distinctive portrait, so it was lovely to paint him. Okay, I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of make a start and then see what happens and talk as I work, you know. Do you want to, are you okay standing, or do you want to? You can, yeah, you can pull a chair over if you need to. And Susan's kindly thought of putting the chair beside the easel so that if you need to sit down during the day, which actually is a good idea, just occasionally to have a seat and relax in between all the action. It really is, like, I forget how much of a taxing thing it is really on our bodies. Okay. And I don't know if I emphasised enough yesterday the value in standing back. And even taking a couple of steps back from your easel is a really good idea. Alright, so yeah, standing back regularly. And even when you don't have a lot of space behind you, you could take a photograph on your phone of your painting as it develops, and that will allow you to see it as though you were at a distance.
Do you want a time on you?
Yes please, Mary, thanks. Yeah.
20,
yeah, how about that? 20 minutes. Okay. Alright, I'm actually going to start with the bigger brush, with it being on a bigger sheet of paper. And yeah, okay. So the first thing I'm doing now is half closing my eyes and visualising the space that Pete's head is going to occupy on the piece of paper. Already seeing the direction that it's going in, slightly tilted back. The shoulder here is a little bit higher than this shoulder. And the shadow is cast by the head onto the shoulder here and down the body. But what I'm going back up to see now is the shadow on the right hand side as I'm looking at his head. And I'm going to use some cadmium red. I think I put the viridian green in there, didn't I? Cadmium red and the viridian green. Yesterday I used the sap green, which is the lighter of the two. But I think the viridian is I think that's going to work. Okay, might make a little bit more of it actually. You never feel like it's easy breezy, you know. It's always you're wanting to find that place. But I just wanted to let you know that. Yeah. I'm not feeling like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing. Alright. But give yourself the best opportunity to have ease in the process. So if this feels like it needs to be a little bit higher for me, and I want to have everything easily accessible, probably a better idea to have my water closer than my brushes. That's going to be here. And the paper towel is there, and I've got a drink of water for myself. Okay. And yeah, coming to steady yourself. Really solidly planting feet on the floor. And now I'm looking at the shape of the shadows on the head as I go back the way there. And I think this colour is quite good. The mixture of red and green looks to me to be a good way to begin the shadows on the side of the face there. And when I lay the brush down, I'm kind of finding my way to the edge here. And so looking, each time I look, I'm trying to identify where the back of the head stops and the space around it starts. That's my first point of, I think that's what I'm doing anyway. Yeah. Okay. Alright. And then there's the line of the neck. Here. And you know that it's not set in stone. The first few moves that you make, you're finding your way in, and watercolour dries a shade lighter, so you don't have to feel like you have to get everything exactly right first off. But do your best. Do your best to observe clearly. Okay. So I'm kind of seeing a run from the chin up to the back of the head. The shadow occupies the space from the chin all the way up really to the back of the head there. There's the triangle of light on the top of the cheekbone, but in general it's all fairly dark on this side. And so the brush is allowing me to find the line that the jaw will, where the jaw stops, and then the front of the neck might be about there. Let's see. And I'm going to bring the neck back a little bit and capture the shape of the. I put a little bit of orange into that kind of yellowy orange colour. It's the cadmium orange, but you could just simply put lemon yellow into the red to give you that warmer shade. Where I think I shouldn't have it that warm. If it's too warm, you can stick some green in, cool it down a little bit. But it's actually it's okay. It's okay. All right. Now, from whatever angle you're positioned, the line of the nose is an important one. To capture the position of the nose across the face is important. So I'm going to really steady myself in order to find the location of that in relation, say, to the curve at the back of the head and to the jaw. It looks to me like it sits about here, the dark, where the eyebrow meets the shadow that's on the nose. So the eyebrow might be kind of horizontally here. When I say the eyebrow, I mean the shadow within which the eye sits. So where the shadow stops, the shadow of the socket of the eye stops, and the light on the forehead starts. That horizontal line there. And just where it meets the nose is what I'm interested in capturing just now. Let's see, that there. And then I can continue the colour down the length of the nose. So I'm pulling it back here, and the nose to me goes in this direction. So the two things to identify are the line of the shadow where it meets the light, and the direction of the nose, whether it's going this way or this way, and how much is it going this way, how much does it veer off the vertical. So there's this pacing yourself, taking your time to find things, but not going over and over it. It's good enough for now. You can leave it alone and move on, knowing that you can come back up and adjust it later on. And so when I continue with my eyes half closed, there's a shadow that's cast by the nose, and you can just let it all run down there, because all of that is in shadow. Let's see. And even back in for the shadow of the socket of the eye. Let me just catch those drips, because I don't really want there to be dark patches in the middle there. I want more for the clarity to be on the underside of the jaw. And move down to a slightly smaller brush when I'm doing the shape of the socket of the eye. Now what I'm doing here, was burnt sienna on the list, I wonder?
Yes.
Yeah. So I can use it. So I think that's what I need here. So burnt sienna with the sap green. Do you know, I forget what I was going to do with it now after all the talk. Oh, the socket of the eye, I think. Yeah. So I think, do you know, it's kind of nice to find different colours in the skin as you're working away. Now this is maybe still a little bit damp. Okay, what do I want to do? When I half close my eyes, what I'm seeing more than anything else is number one, the light on the nose, and number two, the triangle of light on the cheek underneath the eye socket. And so I think it'll be helpful to find the shadow of the socket of the eye, knowing that later on I can retrieve the light on the eyelid. So I'm really just looking for the general shadow shape that reads kind of almost like a diamond-y. It goes back here and it stops and comes forward where it's meeting the top of that triangle of light on the cheekbone. Okay, so, and then why don't I do the one on the other side, just with the same colour? So the eye on the other side reads to me as being higher than the eye on this side. And and if I was to call it a shape, it looks like it would be. You know what I'm going to do now? Sorry to be kind of going off on a tangent, but I'm going to identify the direction of the end of the beard that goes that way. I think it goes that way a little bit, and I've wet the brush. It's got some cerulean blue in it, that beard. I just want to kind of capture the way that there's this lovely tilt that Pete has achieved in the way his head is tilting towards me here, kind of, and it also allows me to see then where to position the eye above it. I might have been wanting to push the eye back a bit further if I hadn't recognised that the chin comes out further below. So it seemed to me like a good idea to do that there, and I put some cerulean blue in to make the beard a little bit different in colour from the skin around it. Okay, and now, so it's a similar colour to what's there with some of this cerulean blue in it that I'm using now to describe what I would call a triangle in the other eye, a triangle of shadow. We'll just put it in and we'll see if it works. So where you place the brush down and where you lift it, like it's easy for me to say this because I'm kind of familiar with using these brushes now and I kind of know how to make a triangular shape with it. Or, I mean, not that you wouldn't know how to make a triangle, but you know, it's just putting the brush down. There's a lot of work in the, you know, that you're having to really look at the shape, and then you need to figure out the easiest way of making the shape and making the colour that you want the shape to be. So take your time, go easy on yourself. You know, it's a steady process of figuring out how it works. Okay, so the triangular, you see the thing is I think that the eyebrow does slant in there where there's a diagonal kind of feel to it. So I'm happy that I've lifted the brush in that direction, so that represents where the eyebrow stops and the forehead maybe starts there. And then I'm going to leave it alone because I can adjust it later on. You don't want to be keeping at things, you know, leave it alone and stand back. So maybe every third move, stand back. Okay. Now I'm going to use the same with a touch of cadmium red in it to move down for the shadow that's on the underside of the nose there. Like I was very nervous there starting, you know, and I needed to do something uncritical like the back of the head. And now I'm feeling I can find my way a little bit more. You'll find your way a little bit more. Trust, you know, just keep the faith. It's all right. When you start making marks, somehow it's revealed to you what needs to happen next, without you feeling like you have to know the bigger picture. Literally. Alright, so there's a bit of cadmium red in there now, and this is all dry. And now I can begin to find where the tip of the nose is. It's very helpful to consider if there was a vertical line here, from the tip of the nose down to this point in the chin, they're on the same vertical, whereas the eyebrow sits back a little bit. So wherever you can, and especially if you've got a pillar behind you, relate the sides of the face to that vertical on the pillar, and see how much does the edge of how much does the edge of the nose, for example, veer off the vertical. Okay, so now I know where the nose is going to end, kind of out here somewhere, and it's about halfway between that point and the eyebrow. So I know the nose will be roughly, I think the underside of the nose will be roughly beginning about there. I'm going to put a bit of alizarin into it just to, because it seems to me like the things like the ears and the nose warm up. They get a little bit warmer. Okay. Okay. I'm just looking at the direction of the edge of the nose there as well, and how it comes back into the face, almost horizontally. And then I'm just going to place something of the shadow that goes in that direction without going into it in too much detail. I'm actually going to soften all I really want. Yeah, I don't know. I'll just soften this part. Okay. And I'm going to put a little bit more of the colour into it, because it could be used there a little bit as well, maybe. and up here. Okay. So really, you know, there was a lot of talk yesterday about being free and all of that, and that is important as well. You know, the feeling of, anyway. But what I'm interested in, what seems to be happening today, is a more kind of focused looking, really a concentrated exercise in seeing, you know, and half closing your eyes and seeing the relationship between parts. Okay, so let me see. All right, so I moved down. You see, I kind of want to lose that a bit because it's a bit too dark to light there. So I'm going to allow the cast shadow, the shadow that's cast by the nose, to link in with the shadow that's attached to the nose. Okay. And now the next important thing, like I was saying to somebody, the next important thing to find down the face is the shadow of the upper lip. But before I do that, I want to, this is great now because I've set myself up to show you the lifting off thing, because I want to create a bit more skin between the eyebrows there. I think there's more of a vertical drop. That's okay. Always heighten the eyebrow again a little bit then. I'm standing back. And like, it's like you're, when you adjusted your forehead yesterday, I thought sometimes it's quite a nice thing to see the line that, or whatever happens when you adjust something, is often interesting as well. But that's maybe just me feeling okay about getting the position. Anyway, in the adjusting, often interesting things happen. So I put a touch of green into that now, a bit too much green, so I took some out with the dry brush. Okay, and we can always carve into other things a little bit more later, but let me go on to the mouth. I'm just laughing, this feels like a very disjointed demonstration altogether. But it's always, everyone is different, you know, so we can just see what happens. Okay, I can see a splash coming soon, like. We need to ease the tension a bit then. But let me get the upper lip first. I want to capture something of the upper lip first. And you know, when you stand back, you recognise other little things that could be adjusted. And finding things like the position of that triangle that explains the top of the ear. This is behind the ear there. You might see the tip of that triangle and draw a line across and see where it would cut through the nose. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm finding the shadow of the upper lip. And it looks to me like the line dividing the lips is a little bit closer to the nose than it is to the mouth. And to find the line dividing the lips, I've just placed the brush with a bit of water on it. I'm going to lift off that corner because I don't want it to drip completely, but I do want it to accumulate there a little bit to represent the corner of the mouth. So holding the brush like that and pulling it up allows you to make a mark. It's got enough paint on it. Allows you to make a mark that might represent just the shadow that you're wanting on the lip. And then when you lift it, the paint generally accumulates. Paint, for fuck's sake. You see what happened there? The paint accumulates along the line dividing the lips. With any luck. Alright. And I'm going to move down to the other side now. Let's see. No, not yet. I'm going to have to wait for the splash. I need to do the other side of the upper lip. Yeah. So the corner of the mouth is an important point to notice in relation to everything else. And when you decide where the corner of the mouth is, like I wanted it to go a little bit to the left there because I want it to be below the shadow that's here. Do you see how you don't have to get it right the first time, thank God? You can kind of adjust things as you go. Although you're aiming to get it as right as you can, you know, and every time. But do you see how many times there's quite a few shifts there? It's okay if you've not got layer and layer. If you're not working into wet paper, you can quite easily move things. And you know, once you become familiar with these brushes, and I have a few that people can borrow. I recommend getting these brushes because they allow you to lift off as well. So I'm putting a bit of ultramarine blue into this. What is I doing now? Oh yeah, making the shadow come over a little bit more here so that it sits above the corner of the mouth. And I want to put a bit of blue into it so that it reads as being a different colour from the shadow in the lip. Okay, and now back to the lip colour. I'd say this is the longest I've gone without a splash, isn't it? I'm very proud of myself. Okay. So the other side of the mouth there, the upper lip, you see it does something like this kind of a shape. You need to really believe your eyes when you're painting the features from your angle, because it'll be different from everybody's angle. And you really need to believe your eyes when you see, right, the direction that the lips are going in is painted that way, I think. The other side of the face. And then it's got a bit more of a roundedness to it at the edge. I'm just dipping a little bit of cadmium red into it there. And I'll pull back to get the little hill that's on the right, on the lip on the right, so that it can just have an idea of where that is. Yeah, and then the corner of the mouth it can shift up a little bit actually. And I'll just get it to read as though it's a little bit higher. I'm going to lift the drip completely. Okay, and now underneath the lower lip is the next useful shadow to capture.
That's your time to
There's no way I'm stopping now. Sorry, but there's no way. So if you want to go away and start yourself, you can. I need a bit of success here. Dear God. Are you okay for another wheel, Pete? Yeah, thank God. Okay. Alright. So, I've stuck a little bit of sap green into that colour there because I want to do a shadow that's underneath the lower lip that's going to read as being a different colour from the lips. And it's kind of parallel to the direction that the nose is going in that shadow. Anyway, and it's sticking out almost as far as that is. So I think, let's see. You'll see when you put it in. See if you put it in and stand back. You can begin to see if you're getting it, you know. And I think that's okay. I'm going to just allow it to dissipate a little bit into the shadows on the right hand side there. Okay, and now we can also use, I'm putting a bit of cadmium red in. And I'm going to put it into the greenish colour that's there, and I'm going to bring the reddish shadow up around so that it's capturing something of the shadow on the right hand side of the lower lip there as well. Because really the light is isolated on this side as it is on this side of the face. Okay. It might seem a bit strange to be only selecting these parts, but they're parts that I've relied on in the past that allow me to find the face, and then you can kind of let there be quite a lot of chaos in the skin in between, really, as long as you can identify the line dividing the lips, the shadow of the sockets of the eyes, and standing back a lot really helps you to see. No, I didn't really expect that to be red, but sure, it's alright. Okay. The sockets of the eyes, the shadow of the upper lip, and something of the shadow beneath the nose. And then when you place the cavity of the nostril there, really locate it according to where you see it to be, it suddenly makes it read as more of a nose. And maybe the little bit of triangular shadow where the flesh of the nostril meets the skin of the face. Maybe observing that shape there as well. And you could just touch it then and let it run. So the edge I'm interested in is the edge where the nose meets the skin, and I'm not so wanting there to be such a clear edge at the outside, so bringing a damp brush in to touch the edge there allows it to dissipate. And it's the same, you know, it's the same in other places. You want the line dividing the lips to really be the clearer line. And calm down. You can be a little bit calmer than me. That's a big ask, isn't it? Okay. But you know, it's an awful lot of fun too. When you become absorbed in what's in front of you, when you become absorbed in the shapes of the face as you see it from your angle, it's a very exciting place to be. You know, it's still settled. Yeah, if you can find it. Like, I know there isn't a button, but you get there eventually. I suppose it takes bravery. What we're doing really takes a bit of courage. So well done. Maybe you didn't sign up for that, but courage is what's needed here. Okay. So before I stop, I want to do a little bit more in the beard. So I'm putting a bit of ultramarine blue into the darks there, because when I look back at Pete, recognising that it's quite, and actually the back of the head there is quite dark too. I'm looking for where the darkest parts are, so that I'm clear that they're identified. So the back of the head there, and the little bit of shadow that's coming up underneath the jaw. There's a clear enough line for where the jaw stops. And the kind of, I know it's quite stubbly, but there's a clarity in that line. And then underneath it here, I'm just going to get a bit more paint on the brush, so that I wanted to run a little bit more to create the little bit of stubbly skin that's down here. Okay. Maybe bringing some up there again. And it doesn't all have to be a complete line there.
What was in the blue there?
Ultramarine blue and whatever was there before. Alizarin crimson, I think, and sap green probably.
Yeah.
So green and red, yeah, and a bit of blue. And I think actually the cerulean blue in general is a better colour for the beard, but I just wanted this to be quite a dark area, because I think it is a dark area. And I first wanted to establish the general direction of that diagonal before now disturbing it a little bit, because it's not really that clear. But I want the jaw to be, I want to know in my head where the jaw is, and then I can let it be stubbly. But in every move you make, you're referring back. In every move you make, even when you're adjusting something, particularly when you're adjusting something, you're looking back, so that the adjusting is also moving forward. You're also still seeing, oh, how can I lift out to make the shape of the eye on the other side? Not just how can I lift out the shadow, you know, but lift it out and carve the new shape that you want out of it. Okay, and then we're going to have some fun with splash. I feel like you all need to have a go at the splash, because you've been so patient watching it. Alright, so the cast shadow of the head on the shoulder there is quite a nice dark to find, and it'll support the darks that are in the darks and lights that are in the face. And sometimes see if you hold the palette up and see the colour that you're aiming for as you're making it. Now, you see how there's not a big pool down there, but it's taking its time to get down. That seems to me like a fairly good consistency. I can scoop it up, and then it'll make a nice dark mark that's still fluid. I think that'll be okay. I'll actually put some alizarin in as well, but it's a nice colour, that jumper. A bit of alizarin and a bit of cadmium. And I'm going to scoop it up and something on. So maybe I'm just not in the splashing mood this morning. Maybe I'm just, I don't know what it is. But I think I kind of want to proceed with a bit of care, you know. And maybe it's not a bad thing to pass that on too, because it's not all a kind of, hey, you know, there is a bit of, not exactly restraint, but just enjoying the rhythm of it, slowly building pace. Okay. Now, finding the position of the shoulder there felt like an important thing to me, so I wanted to get where it enters and exits the face, which I think is about at the line of it goes through the other eye, as far as I can see. And of course, it's something that could be adjusted later on, that's okay. And you can pull up the paint and lift it where the shoulder is. And yeah, let's do this. Okay. I wanted a round of applause there. I want my son. Okay. what is it now? Oh yeah, so and where the shadow stops, so where the shoulder stops is important, and where the shadow cast by the head stops is important. And it seems to me like it's kind of running at an arc that would touch the tip of the beard. And just get that and pull it. And see ways of making a colour happen without really disturbing the paper too much. You're holding the brush really lightly, and maybe pull it up and lift at an edge. Pull it up and lift, so that you're only touching the paper once, and then the water is painting it a second time. And you could even, if I want the edge to accumulate here more than here, it might be a good time then to turn it upside down and let the paint accumulate along there. It's going to touch and go there for a while. And maybe the paint will accumulate where you want it to, and maybe it won't. Maybe it needs a little bit more of a direction. You could still. Yeah, I wasn't aware you were so invested in it. Okay. So yeah. And then you can just leave it upside down for a while and have a walk, relax, shake it off, go into the garden even. Thanks very much, Pete. That was great, yeah, well done. So it's really good to see your painting turned on its head, so it takes the preciousness away from it again a little bit. We spoke about doing the exercise thing. I think I'll pass that on individually as I go around today. Maybe we'll try it tomorrow. Has anyone got any questions or anything like that? Just want to make a start. And you see how gently you can ease yourself into the process. It doesn't have to be a sudden thing. And so, take it easy. And it won't all be revealed to you all at once. It's okay to discover as you go. You don't have to know in advance. You don't have to know more than this single mark, and then the next mark, and the next mark. Yeah, it's a lot like life, isn't it? Anyway, well done. Thanks, Pete. Yeah.